Welcome to
the Dork-Bajir Chronicles,
where an expert
and a new expert,
read through K.A. Applegate's stunning sci-fi serial.
Animorphs.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Come on, get in here.
Hello and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles. It's a podcast where we read through the Animorphs series one book at a time and then talk about it every week. Today, we'll be talking about the Ellimist Chronicles. I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden, the newbie, but like newbie as in like spelled weird, and it's a weird alien name. It's like a weird alien spelling of newbie.
N00B13.
Oh, of
what?
course.
We're gonna start with some mail. Ooh yeah, mail. Ooh yeah. Our first piece of fan mail comes to us from Twitter. At Elgene Rosetta sends us some meme about how Visser 1 calls them Animorphs instead of Andalite bandits. It's a pretty good meme. You should check it out.
It's the exact content. The meme is Visser 1 put on the head of one of the guys from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm gonna stop explaining the meme. I don't know what it is actually. I remember what movie it's in, but I don't remember the context of this scene that this is happening.
Or literally at all, right? Yeah, no, me too. But it's a good meme. We've retweeted it. Check out our Twitter. Our second piece of fan mail comes to us from Anonymous. Oh my. It's an email that we got. Our email address, dorkbajirchronicles@gmail.com. The email says, you guys, first of all, love the podcast. Thank you, Anonymous. And they say, so we have the Animorphs graphic novels to be released, and that's great. Everyone in the fandom is talking about it. However, there's not as big of a reception over the audiobooks. Like, I'm getting major deja vu vibes here from when the reprints were canceled. Currently, apparently with extensive Googling, there's no plans for further books. So let's signal boost this. Let's make sure that all of the audiobooks get made. God damn it, like this is a call to arms, people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Let's if you are as invested in this as we are, you should definitely get out there and purchase. I assume purchase an
audiobook.
I'm assuming the audiobooks are for purchase.
Purchase
it's not
an
just
audiobook, or if they're on audible.com and you got one of those sweet subscriptions.
Yeah.
We don't have Audible as a sponsor, don't worry. But like they might be on there and you can rent them. Rent them from your local library if they're available. Like just all of this kind of stuff will prove to the publisher that engagement is high and that people love Animorphs and that we would love more Animorphs content.
Thank you, anonymous emailer.
Thank you. Also, this is a formal apology that we made so many people so sad last episode. Brayden, we've gotten so many compliments about how good you did that proposal scene. Just applause.
I just got quiet. I just got in my own fucking feelings is all.
You got quiet. You were like with the dramatic pauses. There was a couple people who have tweeted or commented on Instagram or in different places about how this scene never really hit them quite so hard as it did when Brayden read it out, and it kind of gave it that weight behind it that it really deserved. Yeah, I definitely teared up when I was editing that episode.
Yeah,
it's a good time. And
you teared up while we were recording.
Oh, I definitely teared up.
And I have no doubt you teared up while you were just thinking about it like a minute ago.
Shut up.
Your eyes are wet now.
Let's pivot off of that sad feelings times and enter the world where you can be more than what you dream of being. What? Reach for the stars. Body and machine together and become a god. Just like game so hard you clip into the matrix of the universe, right? Am I right? You just fall into the void behind it and they're like, oh shit, we didn't expect anybody to get here. Then you get this weird accomplishment. Yeah.
I didn't follow the beat on that until
the very end.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there was a beat in the beginning, to be honest. We're talking about the Ellimist Chronicles here, homies.
hello.
The
Welcome to the
prologue.
podcast.
Prologue starts off with an Animorphs just dead, talking to God.
Ellimist.
Ellimist. And Ellimist is like, well, here is my story. And then chapter 1, it's like, yo, what's up? I'm like, auburn yellow floor 14 signature 2, but like my gamer tag is 2, man. Bruh, bruh. I got 4 wings, and I have no feet. I just have pods.
No. His chosen name is Tumen.
His chosen,
the name
sorry.
he goes by.
His chosen
In
name
his
is
society, all that shit you said before that is like basically
Formal name?
designates his formal name designates like where he lives and what like his job is. We can get into the details of that, which is some pretty hard sci-fi shit. But he also had this character that we jump into also has a third name. It's his gamer tag.
His gamer tag is Ellimist. 31L157.
No, it's just Ellimist.
Bam. He games with his friends. They play Alien Civilizations, which is basically Spore, but you only got to make one choice. It's like 2 species are pitted against each other, and you can make one choice to change like on their planet or in their biology or something, and see what will happen with the 2 species. Like, will they meet and like become friends? Will they meet and just like start to kill each other?
What it seemed like to me was like it was programmed that all these millions and thousands and hundreds or whatever of races were like already in the game, and that like you, the player, as like a disembodied force, fly around the universe and just like find like 2 or 3 or 4 or however many species, or even just one if you just want to do some sort of like solo run thing and just fuck with them in whatever way you see fit by like having godlike control over the universe, which really scared me at first because I thought, oh my Jesus Christ, we're gonna find out that the Animorphs universe is literally just the Ellimist computer game and Cryak is like a troll.
We almost got that.
What?
So he is a super big gamer, but there's news. So they're called Ketrans. Their alien physiology is weird. I love looking at fan art of this because it does not make any sense. Oh, should I preface this episode description? This is my second time I ever read this book. I didn't read it when I was a kid because the cover scared me. And the thought of like when I read the back, I think it was just really intimidating because it seemed really scientific, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to know God's backstory. So I read it for the first time when I was like 16, 17, 18, and I was worried that like I was kind of scared. It was in the middle of the night. I was doing like a reread. I think I read all of the books in like 16 hours. Or something stupid, like it was wild. I read a bunch of them all at once, and it's in the middle of the night, and I'm reading the Ellimist Chronicles, just getting existentially freaked out, and I haven't read it since then. So rereading it this time, I was just like, huh, okay, this is a very interesting book.
Mm-hmm.
The aliens have 4 wings, 4 eyes, 2 arms, and 2 sets of feet? Or
pods. He
2
describes pods. So I pictured, like, tentacles, like pseudopods.
Oh, no.
Or maybe, like, feet that are, like, big suckers. Because, we find out, they are flying creatures, but their entire planet is mostly hideous lava rivers and like blasted ashen surface, except the Ketrans survive. They have a pseudo-symbiotic relationship with these living, floating, giant crystals that float over the surface of their world, and they can like land on and stay on these crystals so that they don't die in the lava. And they can actually, if there's enough Ketrans, they like flap their wings so that the giant crystals don't run into like mountain ranges or go so low, and the crystals keep on growing. So it's a symbiotic. I never saw any like reason to believe that these crystals were alive personally, but it is described in the book as a symbiotic relationship.
I think it's described
an incredibly fascinating one.
I think it is described as like semi-symbiotic, like you said, because I believe the crystals is just when they're higher in the atmosphere, they're not as close to the lava, so they don't melt. And they're higher up, they can collect more debris to help form the crystals.
Yeah.
So they're not actually left, but it's pretty cool, interesting situation. They have their own like internet that they can connect to throughout the crystal, like when they're plugged in. So you can like mem somebody if you want to send a message, or you can talk out loud.
They called it a mem, a fucking mem.
MEMM. Memming it out. So Tumen, he just finished this really sick game with his buds. He lost, and he feels sad about that because he's not very good at the game according to the charts. He's pretty low at the bottom. He talks to his grouchy neighbor Lakova, who's like a biologist. And Lakova, they talk about there's this upcoming satellite shuttle launch. They're doing their first spacecraft to launch to further into space. And the announcement is coming soon. That's why Tumen logged off the GamerNet. And he's like, hey, Lakova, are you going to come see the announcement? He's like, no, I'm not that interested. What? You don't want to know who get picked to go on? Like, there's non-essential people that are just picked through a draw. Like, you might be one of them. He's like, no, I'm actually one of the regular crew. And Tumen just feels like a huge asshole. Like, damn, I could have made something of my life, and instead I was lazy and I played video games. Well, from this point on, I'm going to work really hard. But
this is what's called in a hero's journey the great
Exciting.
Mistake, or like the when a hero is starting to make decisions that are like bad for them. Like they start thinking like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have wasted so much time on gaming. You know, classic bad decisions that they will later be punished for making, but later they will be rewarded for correcting these mistakes.
And what a correction he does. So, Tumen goes, he's like, okay, I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna do something different with my life. But first I am gonna go hang out with my friends because they're waiting for me at this speech. But like, whatever, I'll go, I won't enjoy myself. So he goes, he's with like two of his buds, and Aguela, the rare female gamer. I read that and was just like, oh, barf.
That's the noise you associate with female gamer?
I hate it. It's so gross. A rare female gamer.
She's not even... Here's the great part, Marcos. Here's the great part, my Marcos. She's not a fake gamer girl. She's the real deal. And her moans are fucking out there.
Yeah, and I did not know until we were talking earlier today, but that was probably pheromones.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a bit later on. We'll get into it. So Tumen's having himself a little hissy fit. He's like, if only I was as stupid as my friends, then I could actually have hope that I'm going to be picked for this shuttle mission. But like, we're all dumb gamers. No way, none of us are going to get picked. Quell surprise, Aguela gets picked. And she's like, oh my god. And then Tumen gets picked. And he's like, what the fuck? He goes home and he's like so excited. He talks to Lakova. He's like, I got picked. And then he realizes that Lakova sponsored him. Why would you do that?
Well, you see, why am I doing a character? Lakova explains to him that he's actually been paying attention to Tumen's like career as a gamer. Tumen actually does really suck at the game. He's constantly losing. But what Lakova really appreciates is that the reason Tumen loses is because he attempts to do things that other gamers think are stupid. Tumen does not act like it's a game. He tries to do things that will be good for these fictional species in the game universe. Like, he tries to, like, uplift them, make them higher species, and then the other player will just, like, up another race's birth rate to make them highly aggressive and cannibalistic and quickly and eat Tumen's race.
Yeah. So he's like, what? And Lakova says specifically that you're a brilliant loser. And Tumen's just like, oh, Lakova's so nice to me. I'm going to go study everything that I can do about this shuttle. So he starts studying a whole lot, days upon days upon days upon days. And then Aguela comes by and is like, hey, aren't you coming to the festival? And he's like, what? The shuttle launches in 5 days. I completely forgot about the festival. This festival is so these crystals move around in the sky. When all of the Ketran flap, they don't just hover, right? They move around. And their trajectories cause them to pass close by each other once every 19 years. So when they get kind of close by, there's a period of time where they'll say, okay, Ketrans, you can go to free flight, which means that you're not. Your free flight is when you don't have to stay at home consistently flapping. And they'll go to free flight to fly in between the two crystals and intermingle and chat. So Aguela comes by to pick Tumen up. They go. They're flying over. Aguela, they're talking about the shuttle and being excited. Aguela calls him Ellimist in real life, not just in, like, their gamer world, which is something that they've already said that they do. Like, as, like, there's, like, a private game thing that he does with another friend of his. And then she, like, spreads her moans around.
Yes.
And it just... Tumen loses his shit. He gets so horny. He's just like, I'm so confused. Ah!
And, like, he describes even pages later, like, Aguela's moans are fucking up my brain.
They're making me feel weird things.
It took me a couple of, like, when I read moans, I had to, like, go over that sentence a couple of times to realize that they were referring to pheromones.
Which makes a lot more sense because my immediate word association was mons.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah, I assumed she was, like, literally presenting her sexual organs, like her cloaca or whatever.
Yeah.
So
they fly. Tumen gets like super horny. He's so distracted. Oh my god, why would she do that? Like, does she just want to be friends? What's going on? They meet they're younger Ketrans, so they've got the farthest distance to go. So they meet in the middle and they have a bit of time to talk with these two Ketran from a different crystal. And it's like, hey, what's been going on? They chat about different things. They talk about the game and they're kind of, the two of them are a little weird. Yeah. Moon says something. One of them he's not called Moon. He says something very similar to Moon, but he talks about, like, he likes to play the Alien Civilizations game. Like, what if you could actually get down into the world and not change just one thing, but change everything, like, really be involved with it.
Yeah.
They also talk about the idea of, like, making a stronger internet so that, like, different crystals could interact with each other. Because right now the internet is contained it's like one internet per crystal, and they can only communicate with each other on the single crystal. What if they can get more crystals around the whole planet?
They also talk about this other crystal that's floating by them. It has changed its governmental system. It no longer has a council of elders. It has a fucking democracy.
Like, they've invented democracy at this other crystal.
And they're also reshaping their own crystal. They're making it big and flat, and they're turning it into what they realize is an airfoil, so that, like, it doesn't just follow its own orbit. The Ketrans on that crystal can, with their flapping, more like finely control its movements.
And what is an airfoil? Because I was picturing tiny little stubby airplane wings on the side of the crystal.
Yeah, that's
Basically?
pretty much it.
Okay,
It's like,
cool.
It makes it so that as it moves and airflow goes over it, like I'm unsure if this is a perfect, like, the way that air flows over an airplane wing.
So they're just talking about the process of airflow, not that they build something called an airflow on the ship.
No,
right?
They haven't built they are shaping their own crystal to be able to move it more effectively.
Okay.
Yeah, like
I thought they built something called, like, an airfoil, and I was like, what's an airfoil? So they talk about a whole bunch of stuff, and Tumen's like, this is confusing. When they're talking about the internet, Moon and his friend are also a little bit shady. They, like, say some kind of weird stuff, and they're like, okay. And then time's up, time to move back, and Tumen's just got a lot on his brain. But whatever, right now he's going to go home and he's going to learn more about this spaceship that they're going to go on. There's a couple of scenes where they explore the spaceship. One where Lakova's giving them a tour and he explains some history where like an alien ship appeared at the Ketran like whole planet and they destroyed it somehow. I don't quite remember.
No. The ship appeared within their star system. They sent out a probe to check it out, and the probe was destroyed.
Oh, that was it.
They sent another probe to, like, okay, that was probably a mistake. Let's send one with, like, better maneuverability and better shields, and we can, like, send that so they know we're, like, just so that the probe can get close enough that they know we're not trying to hurt them. And the probe got close enough, and they saw it, and they destroyed the probe anyway. So they're like, oh, these things are, whatever is on that ship is aggressive. It doesn't give a shit.
I'm pretty sure they called the alien name they gave them was, we're going to say it's Capsaicin. I don't remember it, but it's something like that.
I wrote it down. I suspected that this was some sort of like, going to be a more important, quote unquote, like foil species. And while the Ketrans would be the origin of the Ellimist, the Capagalbacal would be the origins of Cryak. Because they had a very Cryak-like aesthetic going on.
No, they didn't really. They had, like, did they?
Hard metal, flechette weapons.
That's Howlers. Howlers have the flechettes.
Yeah, Cryak's Howlers.
Okay. I mean, just not a lot of other Cryak's minions use flechettes.
I mean, how many other minions does he have? Like, I guess... I was going red lasers.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So Lakova tells this story about what happened. So this mission is an attempt to go to the Capsaicim's home world and negotiate some kind of peace settlement because the Ketrans don't have any weapons of their own. Like, it's just not a thing that they've ever developed. It's like 4 days before launch, and this huge Capsaicin ship and another smaller ship come into, or is it just the smaller ship?
It is as the, I guess we didn't really mention, the very special ship that they're sending with a scientific team on it, it is a crystal that they have specially outfitted with a Z-Space engine for spaceflight. Which is important because, like, yeah.
Then they go into Z-Space later. Yes.
Because they can't go to space without it at all.
Was there, no, my question was there, like, a big ship and a small Capsaicin ship that came in, or was it just the smaller one?
There was a larger Capsaicin ship, that, on their way out, as they're getting ready to go into Z-Space, it, like, shoots the ship, it shoots their crystal ship, completely devastates it with flechette fire. Tumen describes it as making it just look like there were never any Ketrans in that section. That it just looked like the crystal was bleeding.
That specific quote was a little bit later, but there's so there's a really big ship that comes and is blasting lasers. There's a little ship that comes really close to the crystal.
Yeah.
It gets stuck in the force field?
It blasts through the force field so that it can get in and start firing off more, like, potent rounds.
Right, because it takes a while before the shields come up, and it blasts right through them before the shields are fully up, and Tumen just, like, grabs a hunk of crystal and chops it out, makes it a spear, and just smashes through this alien ship, killing the pilot.
Which is something that is very novel to his race. They specify that there are some sort of 5 laws, the second of which is never kill any sentient, which are clearly as important to the Ketrans as can be, because, like, they clearly understand that warfare and, like, interspecies destruction happens. They put it in their game.
Yeah, but it's just a conscious decision. And that's actually what saves Tumen here in this moment, is they're in shock. Like, there's so much violence happening right now. He realizes you have to think of it like a game. Like, this is an enemy species. It's not going to stop until he wins the game. And he smashes the ship with this crystal spear. They jump into Z-Space, and Tumen passes out because he just killed somebody.
Yeah.
He's so freaked out.
When he wakes up, they are still charging up the Z-Space engines, so they can't go back and help out the planet fight the rest of the Carpathians.
Because what they do is they blinked away.
Yes.
And then they have to charge up to blink back.
Yes.
And it takes a little bit of time. There's some discussion about, okay, what's going to happen? Do you think you could pilot this? Tumen gets into the alien ship, which is a confined space, which is really frightening for him and his species.
Yeah.
Lakova comes in to help him, and together they figure out how to pilot this ship so that when the engines power up and they boop back home, they can be in this ship to try and help out.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed at the beginning of the book that we haven't mentioned yet, apparently Ketrans are very, very small. Because he mentions that in the game, the species that he modifies ends up being hunted and evolves so that they are very, very small to be faster. And he mentions, like, they were only barely larger than a Ketran, seeming to insinuate that Ketrans are rather small.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Interesting. So, they bloop back to the home planet, and the big ship is still there firing, and this is when the crystal just bleeds. Tumen just sees as, like, this laser is killed everybody on the home crystal. Basically, everybody is dead. The big planet the big ship starts to move off to the next crystal, and they're just trying to keep up in their ship. It's the crystal that's closest to them, which is the one that they danced with just a couple of days ago. And Tumen tries to, like he's fighting in his fighter jet, just pew 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 pew, killing. I forget exactly what happens in this part of the fight at the second crystal. Do they land at the crystal and warn them?
No, they take out the Carpathian battleship that's letting out fighters.
Oh, okay.
They realize that the Carpathians, even though this is their technology, like this is their flying machines, they still fight like creatures who are landlocked. They have too much of a 2D idea of fighting, so that Lakova and Tumen, even in a single fighter, still get the upper hand and manage to blow up this carrier ship.
Right,
and then they land.
They blow it up, and then they land. Then they meet with this prime. I think it's called Crystal Prime, as they call it. They meet with Crystal Prime. They meet with the elder, one of the elders there. There's like a little convoy that meets with them. I think what happens is there's a convoy that goes from Crystal Prime to the ship, to the spaceship, the big spaceship, and they have a conference there, because then another big ship, Capsaicin ship, comes and kills Crystal Prime.
Yeah, during that, where they meet up with the airfoil crystal, the elder on the Z spaceship, a man called Farsight, he tries to ask that they dock, but they give him a little trouble from the other crystal, because they hail back like, yeah, of course you guys can dock, but you have to become a part of our democratic system. You have to give up your authority as an elder.
That was it.
And this is also where we learn that guy we saw earlier, Moon, he starts like talking out of place. And he's like, you don't have any fucking idea. We've been changing everything. We've been changing the world. We've been doing all this and he mentions that we need to start thinking like this is a game. The Carpathians think this is a game. You know why? And he mentioned he sounds proud of it. Like
he's
it's
like,
weird.
yeah, he's like, we I think it's because they succeeded in that technology. He might have even been on the team, and it was something that no other Ketran had ever done before. But what they did was they made a really powerful internet, and they beamed their Twitch streams of their Alien Civilizations games out into the world. And just like in Galaxy Quest, the Capsaicians saw it and were like, oh shit, these Ketrans just really like fucking with like other people's lives. Let's go kill them.
Which is so fucking weird. Like,
because they provided the videos with literally no context.
Did they?
Was it like, video? What were you doing?
Like, they say they literally send out the game. Because if they just received,
No, it was projections of them playing the game. I remember that because that's what made them think that the Ketrans were, because people would do really horrible things to be good at the game, right? Like they would just change species' lives and make them more violent and terrible things like that.
It still doesn't make 100% sense to me, because, like, if I saw a video of, like, a guy flying through a human, like, even, like, an alien dude flying through space, and then talking to some other guy in space, like, what's up, gamer brother? Shall we do this thing? And then they fly down to the planet, and the guy literally, like, changes his size, or, like, selects a species, and then puts up his hands and literally parts the clouds. I would think, like, this is a video game, or, like, an alien movie or whatever. It would never cross my mind, like, oh, this species of alien literally has godlike powers.
Well, that's because you've grown up with entertainment. We could probably infer the Capatians just have not ever done anything fictional before.
Maybe, but, like, I guess.
But then they're able to go to space. And I don't know if you can go to space if you don't believe that the stars are a little magical. Wink! So that, in the book, this is split into first life. At the end of this, when Crystal Prime is dead, and the only people left, the only Ketrans, really, that they know are going to be left alive is everyone who's on the ship. Which is, like, maybe, 80 people from Tumen's home crystal, and then, like, 10 or so from Crystal Prime, including Moon.
Menno,
that's his name.
Was Menno. I was confused by who you were talking about for a minute, but then I remember, this is where he starts really becoming an important character.
Second life. They all log onto the GamerNet and create big titty goth girl avatars. And they go wander to the horse bar.
Fuck.
No, I'm just kidding. It's like 30 or 40 years later. Tumen is commander of the small band of Ketrans. Menno doesn't like his authority, think that they should use their DNA technology to adapt themselves to become surface walkers. Aguela disagrees, saying that she wants to live in the sky. Tensions have run high these past several decades. 50 years have passed with just them searching for a new place to live with no success.
Because they're specifically looking for a world
where they can
with flying crystals.
Or like even some, like some place that they can like fly in.
Yeah, but then they realize this is the first time they've seen other planets this close up, and they realize, oh, that's an incredibly rare thing we're looking for.
Yeah. Aguela and Tumen are now an item, and they've made a decision to not make any younglings because there's not a lot of resources on this spaceship. Let's not bring a baby into it. So
they describe it as something that is rather society-wide. Like Menno says that it's just not something that's happening. I kind of got did I read right? It was like a species-wide imperative?
I think it was just specifically they decided that because of the spaceship.
Right.
That once they get to someplace new, then they would do that.
But it wasn't like outlawed or anything, right?
I mean, I think it was generally understood that it was against the rules, and the Ketran don't go against the rules.
That's a good point.
Which is why it was so rare that Menno would want to like go into the game and mess up more than one thing.
Right.
So they come to this watery blue moon. They see something that moves in the water, so they want to go down and investigate. Menno says, "Hey, let's just grow some flippers and fish it out." And Aguela's like, "Fuck you! I want to fly, bitch!" And Tumen's like, "Okay, I can't handle this." Menno, you can stay in charge of the ship, even though I know that you'll probably rebel against me. There's a very good chance you'll betray me, but I'm going to trust you instead. Also, my second in command is going to be some guy who's loyal to me. So he's trying to do all these office politics stuff.
I would just like to give everyone a quick heads up here. This is where shit truly hits the fan.
Yeah, this is when it gets
You think
fucked
this is where, like, the beginning of this chapter, I was just thinking, oh, this is where we learn that the Ellimist learned hard lessons in his mortal life, and then, like, the next chapter, they're gonna make the time matrix, and that'll make him, like, a gaudy god. It ramps up a little faster than that.
It's a little bit faster than that. Second Life is, like, 4 pages long. He deals with this political situation. It's weighing heavily on his mind as he goes, Lakova goes, and like they go into this into the alien, the Capacin speeder that they've had with them all this time, that one of the mechanics has like decked out. It's pretty dope. So they go into the planet, they see it's just water, they go around, they go into the water, they look at all the fish. Oh my god, it's so cool. Something really big grabs them from behind with tentacles. Third life. It turns out that Tumen, so this is really fucked up. Like, it's also very interesting.
Yeah.
But it's very terrifying to think about. Do you remember that? Did you watch Love, Death, and Robots?
Of course I did.
Do you remember that one episode Into the Aquila Rift?
Of course.
They kind of get Aquila rifted.
Yeah.
They crash into this being. It's this Tumen figures it out. It's this huge multi-tentacled like green like thing that has them, that calls itself Father. Everything, like everyone is dead. He sees Aguelo's corpse there, but all of their corpses aren't rotting or anything. They're being sustained by Father having his tentacles like in down their neck and like wrapped around them. This
is where things get weird with time and also perception. When they were grabbed by that thing, they like tried to like fight it for a bit, and like Tumen was like, Aguelo, show me on the sensors where this thing is attacking us from. And Aguelo's like, says it's covering the whole planet. And Tumen's like, that's just fucking sensor malfunctions.
Really fucked up.
Shut up, woman.
Do that. And no,
but then it turns out
that's true. Father's just like this huge creature. He has them. He's sustaining them. So the corpses are not rotting or anything. They're still there. Tumen has tentacles all like down his throat, all wrapped around him. But that's sustaining him. He's not drowning. He can breathe. He's getting sustenance.
Menno is there as well.
Menno's there as well.
And like all the other Ketrans.
All of the other Ketran. Like the ship has obviously crashed. He doesn't know where it is. Father communicates through him through a biological like internet. Like he's got his tentacles in them. They can thought speak. Or they can talk together that way, and Father will manipulate reality around, like, Tumen. So at first, he doesn't know that he's dead. At first, he's just hanging out at home with the memory of Aguela talking to him, like, the memory that he had of her talking to him, being there. Menno comes up and will talk to him. Father will talk to him using the bodies of his loved ones. And he is also interested in the games, the information about games that he learned from the Ketran. So he's like, all right, Tumen, let's play a game. So they play games for hundreds of years. And Tumen loses every single one until they come to Guitar Hero.
You said that's not even a joke, though.
That's not a joke. It's like, they have to make music, and it's the first time Tumen's ever heard of music. So it blows his mind and he loses. But creativity's a drug, bud. He, like, practices on his own, even when Father doesn't have him in like the biological internet. He like starts imagining like riffs and different things he can do. He starts playing. He does this one game where he plays his instrument and he's like funky riffing with it, and then he starts to sing, which he just invents for himself. Like he's never heard of singing before. Father had never done singing before. Nothing had sung for him before, and he invents it, and he wins the game.
I need to read you the excerpt of the song he makes up.
It's so good.
Because it is true. He describes himself as the instrument he's playing is both like a wind instrument and a string instrument. And as he plays it, and it's a very sad song, how? Menno/Father demanded, barely concealing the rage. Father is in the form of Menno right now in this mindscape. I'm a loser, I sang in answer. They called me a brilliant loser. All winners but me. Loser. But only a loser can sing the azures. Only a loser truly sees. Guys, the Ellimist invented blues music.
It's perfect. He's just like
the azures.
So since then, Father gets into a hissy fit. He's like, well, fine, I'm not going to let you on the internet. Have a couple of days where you just or a couple of years where you just sit there with tentacles in your mouth, looking at your dead wife. But Ellimist is like, haha, I still got imagination. Fuck you, bitch. I'm going to play games in my mind. Father tries to invent new games, but because Ellimist is like, well, Tumen, because he can like figure things, he's being so good at figuring things out and improvising, something that Father has never learned. He's just like, he keeps beating him. Like, Father will win for a bit, but he'll win eventually.
The blues saved his soul, baby.
Yeah. So that's third life. When one time Father's having a hissy fit, and Tumen decides to reach his own mind out through Father into Aguela, and like activates her memory on his own. And then
Aguela is a corpse, but he realizes that he can use his connection to Father's body to go into her mind and like basically make her move. Or at least act like she's still alive.
Yeah, like a projection of what he knows of her, a projection of how she acted around him from before. Like, it's not a true Aguela, it's a copy almost of what he knows, his interpretation. And he downloads his consciousness into, like, her consciousness into his brain. And then he's like, well, that was fun and easy. Let's do another one. Let's do Moon. Let's do Lakava. Let's do everybody. Let's do all of the Ketran. Let's do all of the other species on Father. Father doesn't notice until now half of the species that used to be in Father are now in Tumen. And he starts freaking out because he's not Father anymore. As the more Tumen absorbs, like he absorbs all of these aliens. And the more Tumen absorbs, the more he realizes that Father was just like a sponge.
There's Capatians, there's Skritna, there's something called the 333.
There's the Skritna is a cool reference. That was the only I was going to say Pokemon. Oops. The only alien name that I recognized. And this is like the halfway point of the book. This book is so dense.
Yeah.
But that's third life. Well, there's a little bit more of third life where there was parts of the planet. So Father would like take him on a digital tour around the planet to see what all of it was like. And there was parts that he never showed Tumen, just like these islands of blankness. Tumen goes to one of them and finds all of the destroyed ships, of like all of the ships from all of the species that once were stuck in Father, that are now in his head. He's like, well, my head's screaming because I'm a mortal Ketran and I've got so many people living in my head now. So many memories. This is very weird. He takes a couple 100 years and builds himself this big ship that he like plugs into.
But he's got so many scientists and so many different like engineers and everything in his head that like it says like the waters grew stagnant, but I no longer needed to drink. All the fish went extinct, but by then I no longer had to eat. And by the end of it all, he is like designed himself into, he makes himself
like he's physically part of the ship.
He makes a mecha. He makes a Gundam.
He's like a Gundam, but if like the human was like had turned into a heart.
Yeah.
Inside the Gundam chest. Like, you just meld it in there. He can't really leave it anymore. He refers to his body as the ship and his body. Mm-hmm. Like, his ship and his body at the same time. This begins fourth life, when he launches off of the planet and floats around, just observing things, seeing what he's gonna do. More like, time is passing in larger chunks for him now. Like, first we had a decade jump for second life, and then we had a couple 100 years, and now it's a couple 1,000 years, and he's just observing. He comes across these two species that are having this war because their orbits are very close to each other for a lot of the time. So they have this war where they fight each other, and Ellimist is just like, you know what, I could stop that. He uses, like, force beams to get them to separate.
Massive force fields. It's important to note he's not as powerful as he will be yet.
No, he's very much using physical things to change. Like, it doesn't feel like magic yet. He is just a very powerful ship. So he uses force fields to push them away and like talks to them, and they're like, "Fuck you, we want to fight." And he's like, "You know what? I could do something as if this was the game." And he changes their orbit so that they are going to be further apart at their closest point. And he chops up like this asteroid and to make a little like asteroid trail. What was it? Asteroid
basically,
belt between their planets.
He realizes that the only reason they can fight each other, their planets have just barely started making spaceships and fuel powerful enough so that their forces can meet, like, literally in the middle of a direct line between their planets.
Yeah.
So what he does is he takes that, like, that zone and covers it in asteroid, so that it'll be another 100 or so years.
So they can't get through it, and then by that time they probably won't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
Because
right? That's the way it works.
They literally can't fight, so they're just going to stop fighting. So that's the way it works. So he's like very pleased. So he decides he's going to do this now. Instead of just observing, he's going to tweak things for the better. Another millennia passes.
I think we do have to go back and describe at least one of these species quick. They are the Central Worlders and the Limians. The Limians are led by an unnamed slug person
called she's like a slug queen.
The Life Giver, who literally gives birth as they are speaking to her.
Yeah, it's very disgusting.
It's unpleasant.
It's like little grubs. The other ones seem like the reasonable ones. And they were like, because they were like, please let us continue fighting.
Or help us destroy them, and we will ally with you.
So Tumen comes back, and he finds that they're all dead. The what was it? The central? No, the polite ones are all completely dead, and the grub ones never developed further space travel. They actually regressed and forgot space travel, and a chill goes down his uncorporeal spine as he hears someone laugh. There's another beast of flesh and machine. It's Kryak.
It's described as Kryak in physical form is described as having like a massive planet-like body with like hundreds of like thousands and thousands of like toadies and cronies as life forms running around on his body, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder
that's when he's floating around. It was, I don't know if it was planet, because it was definitely a ship.
Yeah.
Right? Because they both had the ship powers. But Kryak is a lot more powerful. Kryak tells him the story that, you done fucked up, son. They just started launching nuclear mines at each other.
Yeah.
Which like, destroyed them. Mutually assured destruction. Like, the radiation poisoning killed them all.
But he also says, like, but, that's not actually the majority of planets you help. Most of them work out fine.
He does know his name. Doesn't he call him Ellimist at this point?
Yes.
He says, I've been following your work, Ellimist.
Yeah.
Because Tumen will talk to himself, probably, and if he spied him a little bit, he'll be like, yo, that's fucked up. So now Kryak takes him to this other galaxy and is like, hi.
But first he establishes, you have been doing good work throughout the galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
It has worked. It's taken a lot of work from me to fuck it up. I am your opposite, Ellimist. I'm here to fuck with you.
I'm here to destroy all life. Like, his ultimate... Kryak states that his ultimate goal is to destroy all life. And then once that's done, he can go throw himself into the sun. And be done.
Well, no, it's destroy and then the Ellimist. Does he just mention destroying himself?
He's just like, he just wants everything to be destroyed. That's the vibe I got.
The goal that we've heard throughout the rest of the books is that Kryak wants to make, like, just eradicate species all over the world, put species into conflict with each other until, although I guess this is a prequel, so maybe Kryak doesn't have that same idea yet. But Kryak wants to make it so that there's only one species in the universe who he tests into the ultimate species of a servant race for him by just tossing them against every other species.
That makes sense. That could be like his total end goal, for sure. That would make sense for Kryak. But right now he just wants to destroy all life.
Maybe he's just being a bitch.
This is his emo early 20s kind of stage where he's just like, I'm just gonna kill everybody and then throw myself into the sun. He's like, hey, Ellimist, want to play a fucking game? Come over here. There's 3 planets and 3 asteroids. One of these asteroids has been mined, and they're not going to harm the planet that it crashes into. The other 2 will definitely kill the planets they crash into. You have 5 minutes to destroy an asteroid. Also, one of these aliens is the Capsaicin. One of them is like the cute, fuzzy, snuggy Huggle Bunnies that just want to be friends with everybody. And one of them is the cannibalistic murder fucks. Choose wisely. Tumen chooses wisely. Well, he doesn't, actually, because the one nice species that he wanted to survive dies, and the other 2 live. he's been outsmarted by Kryak, and this is how it goes for a little bit, is that Ellimist follows him around, because Kryak's like, I'm gonna do this really fucked up thing, you have 5 minutes to save it. It's like Saw, he's like emotionally sawing on Ellimist, who starts going by Ellimist now. And Ellimist finally, like, he keeps losing, so he finally has enough of it. He leaves. He goes far off in the middle of space, and he finds this beautiful tribe of this kind of simple species. They have like this one tribe he finds. They have 23 names that they just use over and over. They get some DNA and makes himself a clone and downloads part of his brain into the clone, and then goes to visit them. And they're this little blue and tan furred quadruped with a little blade on its tail, and they run by eating, and they don't have a lot of language yet. They don't even have a name for themselves yet. So Ellimist names them Andalites. And every couple days he goes to the ship to download his consciousness to keep an updated version of it. He grows up, he learns how to Andalite, he falls in love, meets his wife, they have a kid, and the kid gets sick and dies.
It specifies his wife is named Tree, and they only have like 20 words in the species, so like a fifth of all women are named Tree.
Yeah, they just reuse the names over and over. It's like Tree and Star.
Which really makes this sound deeply statutory rapey.
Just that if they don't have more imagination for more names, then it's like, what is this dynamic? Yeah. It's a little weird. It's a little bit like, Ellimist, what are you doing, bud? Their first child together gets sick and dies. And he's just like, what's the point if a child's gonna die? And his wife is just like the point is that some of them won't. Like, that some of them will survive. So they end up having 5 children, and 2 of them grow to survive to adulthood. And Ellimist, like, outlives his wife. His wife dies of old age, and he says goodbye to their adult son, who I think is leader of the tribe now. And he's like, okay, this was wonderful, but I know what I have to do now. He goes back to his ship.
His boy son becomes a strong, powerful warrior who leads the tribe and makes many good political decisions and forwards the entire race. And his woman child does just as good. She marries and has babies. Equally important things.
He goes back to his ship body, and he knows what he must do. Instead of trying to save the ones that Kryak's destroying, you just make more life. So he just goes to planet, just plants these little seeds that would grow into new life. He invents this little race called the Pemalites, and he turns down the aggression and up the creativity and happiness and just lets them go, and gives them the mission to make their own life and do the same thing, pollinate. So they kind of do that for millennia. And then Ellimist and Kryak run into each other. And now Kryak has done some upgrades. But guess what? Ellimist has done a bunch of upgrades. And now they just start, like, wailing on each other with laser guns. But they're outsmarting each other. And they know that this is their Batman and Joker. They're evenly matched now.
I would call it more, like, the way this goes, I'd say it's less Batman and Joker and more Peter versus the Chicken Man. If you watch Family Guy, I guess you don't. Have you ever watched Family Guy?
Oh yeah, I get that reference.
Yeah. For those who haven't watched Family, you know what? Just look up Peter versus Chicken Guy on YouTube. There's like a series of fights in Family Guy. That like every time the joke comes up again, it becomes a very stupid long montage for like a 30-minute show to get into, and they become more and more intricate every time. And that's kind of what's going on. That's kind of what that's the gist I get from this.
But I believe it just continues. They don't stop and start this battle. They just keep going for years. And then finally Kryak outsmarts Ellimist and gets Ellimist sucked into a black hole.
Yes,
but he doesn't. Well, not all of them. It's also Ellimist is now not just one ship, but several ships. And most of the ships get sucked into the black hole. But he doesn't die.
But some of them are still in real space.
Some of them are still in real space.
Some of them are Z space.
But also, he doesn't die. Like, he feels Kryak going around and killing the rest of him that's outside. But right now, he's just in this, like, kind of blank space. He sees the threads of the space-time continuum all around him. He realizes that he can, like, actually change how he projects himself in this space. And he knows that he is extremely powerful. He realizes he's extremely powerful here, but he knows that if he could figure out how to get here, like as soon as Kryak knows he's in here, he's gonna get in here. So Kryak goes to kill, like he goes to send a laser at this planet to blow it up, and Ellimist just goes, boop, no you don't, and just dunks it back.
Yeah. Like,
And
for
keeps
years
doing
he just
that?
hides out and is like, I'm gonna wait for Kryak to try to do something so big that I can't ignore it. And then, specifically, the galaxy is described as having 9 planets. Only 2 of them support life. One of them, the ozone has already blown off. It's already doomed. Kryak won't do anything about that. But there's this little blue planet that's teeming with life. It's covered in water. So it's like just a big soup for life to grow. And Kryak...
There are these really large reptiles walking around.
Yeah. And Kryak decides, I want that off the face of the earth just for fun. And Ellimist decides, no. Kryak fires one laser. And the Ellimist twings on those strings of time and space, and the laser just disappears.
Just
Kryak
gone.
fires again. Ellimist can just, with the flick of a pseudo-metaphorical finger, a metaphorical finger, just end it. And Kryak realizes, ding! And then I believe it's the next page already. Kryak is just there.
Well, I mean, they just jump because all Kryak is doing now is trying to figure out how to get there. It takes him however long, and now Kryak is there in the same white space.
What's up, bitch? Now I'm in a black hole.
And Ellimist just decides to go as his normal Ketran self to project himself like that now. And they decide, okay, well, let's play the game again, but this is too much power. Like we'll have to have rules so we don't get too out of control. Because
if we fight in here, we will shake time and space so much there won't be a universe to fight over.
So we're gonna have to do it with rules. So let's begin the game, and thus the chess game begins. And this is one thing that has been talked about in the book before. There's a reason why Father kept Tumen alive for so long, was that he was so desperately lonely he wanted someone to talk to. That's also why Ellimist clones himself as an Andalite and goes to live with them for a little bit, was because he just needed somebody else to talk to that wasn't him. That wasn't just a projection of him. He needed some other information to interact with. Which is why he and Kryak have to keep each other alive. Yeah.
This wasn't as much of an origin for Kryak as I was hoping it would be.
No, Kryak just comes out of nowhere and it was just like, yo, I know everything about you, but you know nothing about me. I'm mysterious.
Yeah, there was literally more in just like the mainstream books about where Kryak comes from than in this.
Yeah. But yeah, what'd you think of this book? Was it what you were expecting? The Time Matrix didn't show up at all, which is probably really
that kind of infuriated me. Like, the way that this book went, I really enjoyed it. I really did, but just, they set up all these things that in the series proper that made it seem like they were important to the Ellimist and maybe Krayak's origins and timeline. Like, the Ellimist apparently made the Time Matrix, but it's just some goofy little Bibba Baba that just comes up in megamorphs? Come on! That's not... Rah!
Show us making the Time Matrix.
Yeah, the Time Matrix is such an important part of this. I really thought I was sort of right in that the Ellimist is not just one individual. He is an entire species. He's his entire Ketran species and others. I just didn't realize.
He was the entirety of a couple of species, as well as like little dabbles in a bunch.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how he almost sort of I felt kind of jarred by the end when he literally accidentally stumbled into godhood. Like, he spends the entire book getting more and more powerful, more and more knowledgeable, through his own skill and wit and grit and kindness to no small extent. But then the end, it's just like,
it was given to him.
Oh,
it wasn't like
wow.
Kryak proves that he's incredibly intelligent because he figured out how to get there. Ellimist just happened to go there first.
Yeah, he literally just trips into it like Daffy Duck, like Kryak trips him like Bugs Bunny tripping Daffy Duck into a big hole.
It was just such an inconsequential thing. Like, what if he didn't take Kryak's bait, right? Like, What if he actually thought it out and just didn't take Kryak's bait?
Yeah.
What if he didn't walk through the construction site? Ooh. Also, I got some major Full Metal Alchemist vibes for a little bit. Spoiler alert, but Tumen is slave number 23. That's a subtle enough reference that if you'll only get it once you're reading that part of the book, because it does not come up before then. So you're safe. It's a safe spoiler.
Tumen is what, number 23?
Slave number 23.
Slave?
Yes.
Does it say fucking slave?
That's a character's name in Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, did you not listen to the whole bit? I was talking about this is a reference to Full Metal Alchemist.
I thought, I didn't realize that, I haven't watched Brotherhood or read all the manga, so that's probably not that's might be what I missed. Anyway, I did miss the joke. I thought Tumen was that was one of his, I thought you were saying that was one of his big names, and that was slave number 23 is also a thing that appears in Full Metal, whatever. Which it is, but I misunderstood.
Also, there's a line that Tumen says near the beginning. I had the Ketran prejudice in favor of the flighted. Does that why the Ellimist like Tobias so much? Probably. He's a sentient person who can fly, and he hasn't met one of those in probably a really long time.
Reminds me, I wonder what sort of relationship the Ellimist and the Ketrans have with someone like, who was it again that designed the Dork-Bajir?
The Arn.
The Arn, that's...
Yeah, I wonder what Ellimist thought about those guys when he saw them. Who? Okay, question for you, Braden.
Yeah.
An Animorph dies at the beginning of this book.
Oh, we all know that. I know who that's gonna be.
Do you know who it's gonna be?
It's Rachel. It's gotta be Rachel. That's even if it wasn't about,
Rachel's not the only Animorph who dies.
Oh, okay, so she's just the only one that the Ellimist talks to? You have that quote tattooed on your wrist.
I have "Let's Do It" tattooed on my wrist. What are you talking about?
Oh! Okay, I'm thinking of another tattoo.
There's
I know somebody...
It's a very popular quote to get tattooed, and I probably will get tattooed, but it's a mention at the end of this book where it was, where this Animorph asks, did anything I do, was it worth it?
Yeah.
And the Ellimist says, you were
mattered.
kind, you were good, you were, you mattered. Yeah, so that is a quote that's said at the end of this episode. Yeah, this is kind of this is a much crunchier sci-fi, I will say, in terms of alien species and descriptions that aren't complete descriptions, but enough to give you a gist of what a creature looks like.
It's very crunchy is a good word for it. I think
it's a fibrous sci-fi.
I've used the word hard sci-fi to describe. I don't know if I said it on the podcast yet, but it's definitely crunchy sci-fi. Hard sci-fi describes something a bit more
well, I think
Star Trek-y or Firefly-y, where they have weirdly deep descriptions of the engines and it's all based on real science and shit like that. This is a bit more wibbly wobbly, I'd say. I wouldn't describe it as crunchy. It's definitely not super soft Star Wars level sci-fi, but it's also not that hard jawbreaker sci-fi. This is a good crunchy like a chocolate bar, but with nuts in it.
It's no Vorkosigan saga, however you say it. I would say and I wonder if that's more that the authors couldn't go further because it's written for 9 to 12-year-olds.
Definitely.
And they still had to get them to understand it. Well, I mean, what more can you say about this book? This was a neat book. What'd you think? You liked it?
Yes,
I
most definitely.
Might. What are your predictions for the last book of this series?
I have one prediction about one moment. That prediction is Rachel dies. This is 100% informed by spoilers. So
yeah, it's really hard to avoid that spoiler.
Yeah, which is,
the
what?
series has been out for 20 years.
If you are a person who went into Star Wars in past the year 1997, if you have seen Star Wars and you were not born before 1993, you knew that Darth Vader was Luke's father. Did it make Star Wars any less of a good series of movies? No, I don't think so. And I think a lot of people are... I think spoilers are not nearly as important as a lot of people say they are.
They're really not as important to the quality of the story as some people want to make you think that they are.
Yeah.
Like, this emphasis
especially
on
with
keeping...
especially with older media like this.
Yeah.
I'd say at least 6 to 10 years. 6 to 10 years. 6 or more years. And that's like, there's no such thing as a spoiler.
Yeah, it's... Yeah. Especially if you go digging, once you go digging around
Yes.
into the fandom. But, like, what else do you think is going to happen in that book? Like, where do you think that's going to happen?
I have read, at this point, how many books have we read up to this point? Holy shit, 53?
There's 54, plus 4 is 58, plus 3 for the plus 3 chronicles is plus 4 chronicles is 62, plus 2 Alternomorphs is 64.
And that
I think I
is
did that
not
math right.
And that is not counting 54?
That is 60. You've read 63 books.
I have read 63 books in the Animorph series. I have scoured the covers for details in the pictures. I have scoured these covers for clues in the taglines and the titles. I've looked on the internet at like what the picture on the inside cover is going to be sometimes. I've read things that explain the very physics of the gods of this universe, and I am finally confident enough to tell you, going into this, the final charge, that I know nothing. As Socrates spoke it, and I will not sully that pact, that philosophy, by speaking as if I had a clue.
If you want to hear us speak as if we do have a clue, you can check out our back catalog. We've got all of our stuff on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook.
Remember to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, or else you'll, maybe not catch the couple last episodes. Honestly, this close to the end, it's not as important that you subscribe.
It's not as important that you subscribe.
Give
What
us 5
is
stars.
Yes, if you review us, if we could go out with like a bunch of really good reviews, I'd be so happy. Also, we have 2 episodes left after this. So next week we're talking about book 54.
Yes.
Oh, let's all cry together. It's probably going to be a longer episode, let's be real. And then the week after that, we're going to have a series wrap-up episode where Brayden and myself and a secret special guest are going to talk about our thoughts and feelings throughout the book. If
That's
you have
right.
any questions that you'd like us to talk about, we got a post on our Facebook and a post pinned to our Twitter. Check those out. Ask your questions there. We'll answer as many as we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
In other news, I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden. Thank you for coming on this journey with us.
And this has been Phantomorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.